Hey there, my friends, and welcome back again. I want to make it clear first off, side note, please don't make this a political thing. Don't assume that this is political or left or right politics. I'm really having a hard time lately talking about certain subjects because everything is so fucking divided. So I want to make it clear this is about wealth and wealth disparity, but it's also about a couple of numbers. It's about math, it's about understanding numbers and how big those numbers may be, and it blows my mind consistently. When we talk about space, when people say something's, 1,000 light years or 1,000,000 light years, does that really resonate with you? No, it doesn't. You pretend you understand it. You don't. You don't. Nobody does. No human can understand how far something is that takes 10,000 years at the speed of light to get there. It's beyond our comprehension, right? But we're still fascinated with space and space travel and the speed of light. Like, how does something get around the world in a split second? But it does, because things do what they do. The world of, macro or micro, rather, if you will, events are just so, fast. Some of them we just can't even comprehend. But there's also the long, slow processes, right, that bring us to where we are. And somewhere in between that are human beings. And we can only comprehend the numbers that pertain to our lives or relate to us. We understand things in the sense of like 100 of something, or even 1,000 of something. When it gets up to like 100,000, it gets a little weird. Then 1,000,000. I'll be honest. Most people I've talked to in my life don't know that 1,000,000 is 1,000 thousands, because everything goes up in 10. 10 tens to 100, 10 hundreds to 1,000, and then there's 10,000 and then 100,000, and people would think 100,000 was rather like 1,000,000. I mean, so many people, adults I've talked to, and no shame to anybody, but no, it's 1,000 thousands is 1,000,000, and 1,000 millions is 1,000,000,000. Therefore, a billion is 1,000,000 millions, okay? I mean, sorry, 1,000,000 thousands. Is that right? Yeah, 1,000 millions. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of numbers, but most of it doesn't exist. It's not physical. It's just an idea. But if you've ever looked at $1 billion, I would urge you, if you're curious about this topic at all, go look at a comparison map where it shows a little human. Just type in Google, human compared to a pile of money, show $1 billion, whatever, prompt. It's pretty shocking. And so it multiplies extremely each time. So to get back to the point, because I did make this video previously, I got like 5 minutes in, and then I forgot the numbers that I'd written down on this table here. They're just written down like in pen on this, right on the table. But I wanted to know, because minimum wage in the South is something like $7.20, $7.50. Fuck, waitresses get even less than that. I'm passionate about that because my wife's a server, but that's another story. Minimum wage has not kept up with inflation, obviously. But this is even 5 years ago. They said minimum wage was the same as the 70s when compared to inflation. Well, it's still the same. And inflation has doubled. So here we are, right? People's money is worthless. People are struggling. People are having a hard time. And meanwhile, you have these sycophantic fucking billionaires sucking up to the government so they can get their teeth, And these things bother me because a guy like Elon Musk, who says, and please don't turn this off, hear me out, because the numbers do matter. He's like, we're saving the nation, trillions of dollars. But in the end, he's like, oh, we saved $50 million. People are like, that's great. Or sorry, $50 billion, because that's a huge amount of money. And then you find out that between SpaceX and Tesla, they received something like 60-something billion dollars in subsidies. And by the way, a subsidy is literally cash from your taxes to them. I did the math. It came out to something like $180 per American was paid to Elon's companies, okay? So let's not talk about like saving money. Let's just look at it like it is. The oligarchs want more regulation that benefits them. And I know you've heard this before, but it's a huge issue right now. And when you look at the numbers of how much money it really takes, I think that people are sometimes shocked when they see the actual numbers. If you were to work a job for $20 an hour, which in some spots is close to like 2.5 times or more the minimum wage, $20 an hour, and you worked a full-time job, 40 hours a week, full-time, 52 weeks a year, no breaks, no vacations, no sick pay. How much do you think you would make in 10,000 years? Right? Well, the average cost, what you would make is 40,000 a year. And this is before taxes, of course. Before taxes, you would make $416 million in 10,000 years. It's like, wow, that doesn't sound right. You should make more than that in 10,000 years, especially if a guy like Elon can make that in like 10 years. And you start thinking about fairness, what a person is really worth as an individual. And then you start to understand fiat currency and the idea that a person's worth more if they can convince people that they're worth more. But I wanted to go further into this because the answer to the question is, if you work for 10,000 years at $20 an hour, you'd make $416 million. That's less than $500 million. And he's a guy who's worth 400 plus billion. So I wanted to look a little deeper and say, well, how long would it take for me if I were to get a job working for, an employer? Like people say, get a job and, you'll be taken care of, right? Okay, get a job for an employer making $20 an hour. And it doesn't matter if you say, oh, you could get raises. You could double this. Let's double it easily. $40, $60, $100 an hour. Doesn't matter. There's only so many high-paying jobs. So we stick with 20 for a reason. $20 an hour, working 40 hours a week, soul-sucking work, not including travel time, right? Because we all have to drive to work or take commute. And then you come home and you do the same thing over again. You come home, you could do the same thing over again. How long would it take you to make as much money as Elon Musk is worth, right? 10 million years. You could work 10 million years full time at $20 an hour, and you would still be worth less than Elon Musk. So I just wanted to put out that number. Elon Musk is worth 10 million years worth of labor. Not days or hours, but guys like him and Bezos, they make more every second than most of us make every day. This is just how it is. It's how it's been for a long time, but it's not how it has to be, and I don't buy into it. I don't accept the fact that, these technocrats and oligarchs and these wealthy motherfuckers are going to come in and all of a sudden tell the U.S. what U.S. culture is or what the U.S. is all about. I've said before, I'm like a liberal redneck in a way. I've got, I'm a hippie. I'm wearing a Jimi Hendrix shirt, but I don't, I also use firearms. I'm not a pussy. I don't put up with bullshit, put people in their place, and I don't mind using retard once in a while. It's stupid that we've divided ourselves on these culture wars when the real war is with the extremely obscenely wealthy. And as I said, their tax rate was originally back in the when people today say America was great at one time, they're usually talking about the 50s for some reason. 50s, 40s, 50s, whatever. I should say after the war, the post-war era was very successful, and at least for a lot of certain people. But to go back to that acknowledges that the reason why that was successful is because of extreme measures done. Two of those things. One of them was the New Deal, which helped Americans out and gave them security, right? Helping Americans with their health and with their finances when they get old. And the second one that we often don't mention is the 90 to 94% tax rate on corporations and certain companies making over a certain amount. The highest, rate for the highest paid companies. And this went on for a while. And that 94% tax rate went down to 90, then it went down to 80, 70, 60, 50, 40. And then I think when Trump took office, it was something like 34%. And Trump dropped it to 21% in his first term. So yes, the corporate tax rate does help to fund the country. And if people say, well, the corporations need to make money too, they are making plenty of money. This is what people don't understand. They make an exorbitant amount of money. In fact, Amazon didn't pay any taxes during one of the years during COVID, nor did Elon, because they were able to buy their own stocks, which is called stock buybacks. So you take all the profits for the year, you buy back your own stocks, and then it's an investment and you're not taxed on it. These are simple things that the wealthy can do. For the average one of us, we're stuck trying to fake a donation to Goodwill to make it seem like we put more money in so we can get a little bit of a tax break off of our fucking bill every year, because that's the truth. But Americans don't want to admit it. They're ashamed to admit that they're broke. And you shouldn't be, because you shouldn't be fucking broke. You should be able to work a job full time and be totally taken care of, because we are completely able to do that in this country. And when people say, oh, where does the money come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. Black ops budgets, ridiculous, frivolous lawsuits and cases, court filings and bullshit that we don't need to deal with. We could be smarter. I don't know who could lead the way, because people are dumb on both sides of the aisle, and we only have two sides right now, unfortunately. But the fact is that we have 6 directions, right? So maybe we should have 6 parties. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it. But I know if I had to work 10 million fucking years to make as much as one human being, there's something wrong with the system. And don't you dare say, be more assertive and get out there and go get them. The truth is, there's only so much money. And when people make that money, we celebrate them. But we know what they do to get it. And it's gross. It's depressing at times. And I feel trapped by it, but I try to keep a positive attitude, because that's ultimately all we can do. So all I can say is fuck the billionaires, fuck the oligarchs, fuck the technocrats. These people are so far removed from anything I see as beneficial that it's because of these type of people that I hope for a solar flare or an apocalypse to, sorry, I hate using that word. Apocalypse just means unveiling or revealing. So, but I think that's what it is. I think personally, I believe we're in an apocalypse right now. And I don't say that generally, just out of the blue, because the word is so misunderstood. People think of like fire and brimstone shit, but really it just means unveiling or revealing. And I feel like the internet is an apocalypse because it's revealing who we really are. We're starting to see ourselves, but we're also seeing the corruption out in society. We're seeing that, the highest office, not just in the country, but in the entire world, is preventing evidence being released for a list of the most abusive, wealthiest pedophiles in the entire world. And yeah, nobody's going to forget about that, because ultimately most of us want everyone to be protected. We've always been kind of disgusted by the corrupt elite, but for some reason, a huge portion of America is now embracing corrupt elite billionaires, and it's gross, but I'm trying to understand it. So, all that aside, all I can say is these people know that money is power, and that power buys, power gets you money, and it doesn't seem that they give a shit about you or me. So why do we give a shit about them? And I'm probably off base, because a lot of people are huge Elon fans or Trump fans. That's not going to change. I have a friend who's a big Trump supporter. No matter what I say, it doesn't change his mind. I was going to say I respect that, but I really don't. I respect certain things, but the inability for us to change our mind to blame the right people for the problems, that's where we're at. It's greed that is causing these problems. It's very simple. It's Wall Street that is the problem with society. These hedge funds that buy up small companies and our ability to let companies monopolize. And we try to fight back, but nothing can get done. So, it may sound grim or drab, but the fact is, I don't think any human should have to bust their back for fucking 10 million years to make as much as any other human. With that said, that's my opinion on wealth, billionaires, and why I have a huge issue with them. I've never really been able to vocalize it with the proper, statistics, but, the fact that you could work 10,000 years, the fact that you could have started a job back during the Ice Age and worked your ass off and saved every penny tax-free and still have less than $500 million shows the disparity is much bigger than people realize. And even though money isn't real and money doesn't exist in any real form, that doesn't change the fact at all. You see, if one of these billionaires that had, say somebody who had $100 billion, people say, well, money isn't really worth anything. It's just a number. It's just in their account. This is true. But if they took this money, this $400 billion or $100 billion, let's say, and they said, I'm going to distribute this to, 1 million different charities or groups, not charities, because I know so many are corrupt, but the point being, if it was given away to other groups, innovators, scientists, which there are many people like this who are altruists, but generally people are greedy as fuck and just pass it on. Their kids turn into douchebags too, and that's how we get the Trump family. You just don't really, just no tact, no value. I mean, look, we got to admit, the White House has been loaded up with gold over the past few months. I don't pay attention to the news, but I did see a clip, and it was like, he's replaced everything in there with this god-awful golden shit. He loves gold because gold is some representation of, wealth. Obviously, but it's all fake, right? It's all plated. God, I hope it is. I hope my tax dollars aren't going for solid gold shit for Trump's office. The point being that it's all an illusion. It's an image, and people buy into it. Why do people support this? Why do people support wealth as being the ultimate goal? It's because people are broke. They're poor. They believe in the promise that they might be wealthy too. And it's just not going to happen unless you work for it. You can work your ass off in this country, at least in America. You can bust your ass and you can make good money. But, you're still trapped in the same system as anyone else, but it is doable. It's just, there should be enough for everybody to make enough to survive. And there are plenty of people who take more than their share. So, with that said, that's my rant for the day. I'm going to get back to work. So talk to y'all next time. I've got to actually do some blue collar shit because it sucks. I can't afford to pay, an army of fucking workers for me. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Be well. Take care of each other as best you can. Oh, and thank you to my patrons. I don't mention that enough. I've been doing some video editing lately, and I'm getting ready to put a little love into this channel as well as my other channel. God, I say that so often. But I do have a couple edited videos I haven't made public yet about my new property. I put in some benches and a little roof over them between the trees, dug some holes and did a bunch of stuff I want to share, but I have to find the time where I can reroute my brain into that and actually do it. So I'll see you next time. Peace out. Much love.